Hello and welcome. This is a bonus of the Wise Mind Fireside Chats, the Wi-Fi chats, because it is February, which is the month of love. But is love just about romance, or is love about something deeper? And we're going to get a bird's eye view from Gabby about Saint Valentine.
Yeah, St. Valentine was actually a Christian, obviously, who was very good at the time in marrying people. He had lovely ceremony for vetting people, but at a time where Christianity was not yet quite legal in Rome or in that area. So what happened? He was captured and he was thrown into prison. And what we actually celebrate on St. Valentine's Day is him becoming a martyr and being murdered. So not very romantic, and you probably wonder why the hell. Well, what happened? He had fallen in love with the jailer's daughter, so that's how the story goes. And because it was a hopeless love, the only thing he could do in the end write her a letter, and he signed it uh, with your Valentine, and that's where the Valentine's cards come from, and that's the whole shortened version of a long story how that whole thing happened. And if you think about it, how much pressure is on Valentine's Day? People having expectations, waiting for the flowers, being forgotten, going out, things not going well. There's so much pressure and expectations on Valentine's Day. I think I'm the only woman in the world who ever been given out to for forgetting Valentine's Day because I don't celebrate it. Uh, so yeah, February love of month, but it really brings us down to the idea what love actually is and what it's meant to be. And is there, for me, the question is always, is there certain expectations we have built on love because of all the love movies and the love stories and what we're told what it should be like and what men should do and so when women feel, there's so much pressure behind it. So yeah, how do you feel all about that?
I completely agree about the amount of money that goes into Valentine's Day, the way everything becomes more expensive, like flowers, etc. And there are a cynical, jaded few who only make the effort on that day. Love is not a one day of the year event for me. And different cultures have celebrated love in different ways and have all sorts of different ways of recognizing that. Some stick to those old cultures and old ways far more. And I would much rather have a kind of unplanned, unexpected romantic event happen on any other day of the year than feel like somebody's made an effort for me on that day. And I say that as somebody who's probably received in 40 odd years two or three Valentine affection things. So I don't do Valentine's Day so as to manage my expectations of who might happen to be caring for me at that time. But definitely, the consumption, the excesses of having to have the meal, the flowers, the wine, everything else. We all know that when there's a lot of expectation on something, um, could be Christmas Day, it could be Thanksgiving, they can often be a bit of a flop. And I wouldn't want to commit myself to flopping on the day of love. And I just realized that sounds really bad.
So, Valentine's Day is a money grab, first of all, right? I don't put much weight on Valentine's Day. And the love of my life is missing from our recording right now. So I wish that he was here to actually hear his view on it. But I know his view on it because we don't celebrate Valentine's Day as if it's Valentine's Day. Everything has to stop. I don't subscribe to it only because it's like, I want to feel love every single day. Why am I only getting all of it on the 14th of February? I don't want that. That is not what it's about for me. And just because you hand me a heart full of chocolate doesn't mean you love me. And I don't know what this means. Nothing. It means cool. I have chocolate. Like I like the chocolate. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't equate automatically to love to me. For me, Valentine's Day is just an extra added excuse for me to show a little bit extra. I got you this. Like, this is fun. Like, it's just a fun way to give you something special, like a little treat or something for the day. You could not pay me enough to go to a restaurant on Valentine's Day. No, thank you. No, I'm not doing that because there's millions of people. You have time limits on when you can eat because it's like mass produce a romantic dinner. What? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. That is not what I think love is. Love shows up in different ways, and it's every day. It's an everyday thing. It's not just one day. Pressure, too much pressure.
I completely agree. And your love shows up in many different ways. It shows up in friendship, relationships, sibling connections. And because I'm kind of thinking of romantic love as we've started with Valentine's, I'm thinking of people who lived 50, 60, 70 years together, committed with a partner, who've had all the highs and lows of that, who've had to face things with courage, who've grieved together, celebrated together. And that, to me, is the dedication to devotion that really shows. And there might have even been times where they didn't even particularly like each other anymore over a certain thing, but the love, the connection outlived all. And I think, to me, that kind of connection, which, as I say, doesn't necessarily have to be, through wedlock or anything else, is a much greater sign of love.
I'm thinking back when I grew up, my father was a romantic at heart, right? He was, and he was super generous. And the poor guy was stuck in a house with all women. He had my mother, he had my sister, he had me, even the damn dog was a female. He was screwed from beginning to end. He couldn't get away from it. But and I knew my father loved me every single day, like it wasn't questioned. But Valentine's Day would come, and he made sure that each one of us got our own little thing of chocolate, got a stuffed animal, whatever it was. And I think it brought him pleasure and joy to do that, to show the generosity of his heart. Here, I'm giving you something extra special. It was almost fun for him. And I've taken that on. Like, that's what Valentine's Day is for me. I will get a thing of chocolate or something that I know whoever might like. I think one year I actually got Brett like a thing of pickles or something. It was like he wanted pickles, and whatever. It's just, I'm thinking of you extra today. I think of you every single day, but this is my opportunity. It's like an excuse for me to show the generosity of it gives me joy to do this for my son. Look, I love my son in a different way than I love Brett, right? But the love is deep that I have for my kid. And I will just, hey, I got you this. I mean, I do something for him all the time throughout his whole life. It's just an excuse to enjoy the festivity. That's how I look at it. It's not, there's no mandatory way of behaving. There's no expectation. I'm okay if nothing comes back because it's not about that for me. It's my opportunity to show you how I feel about you. I've been known to bring my coworkers presents on Valentine's Day. Like I'll go to the dollar store and buy packages of pencils and just like drop a pencil on everybody's desk, got hearts on it or something. It's just a way of acknowledging that you exist in the world, and I'm wishing you love. That doesn't mean I love you or I'm in love with you, but I'm wishing you love, right? Because love is a pure thing to just wish for people. I love my friends, love you people. I'm sharing this space with you. I have love for each one of you. I love my animals, different love. Not buy my animals chocolate hearts for Valentine's Day. Does that mean I don't love them anymore? No. It's just a way to express something a little special on Valentine's Day. So I think that this narrative of the pressure that men are under, because women are not under the same amount of pressure to have to show up for their men that way. Why do men have to spend their fucking paycheck on one day of the week to validate how they feel about you? It's absurd. And I'm saying this from a mom's point of view of a young man now, right? I want to make sure my son knows it's not expected. And be mindful of whoever you're choosing to be with. If there's expectations of being placed on you, you don't have to do that, right? You show up every day the way you want this special person in your life to feel. And if you can, if it's within your means and you want to, give something. That's not mandatory though. And I'm not a man, but I'm taking up, the cause that this is not fair, that men have to feel this pressure and that it's almost like demanded of them in some relationships.
Yeah, actually have a really good point there. I once had a boyfriend and he said, "What do you want for Valentine's?" I said, "Look, I honestly, I'm not celebrating Valentine's, right? Don't worry, don't get me card, don't get me a pink teddy bear. I'm like 45, I don't need a pink teddy bear, right? Just don't worry about it." And he came with a card and a pink teddy bear. And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Oh, I thought you just said it because that's what women do. I don't get me anything." And then they get all upset if they don't, because that was his experience previous, right? And I'm with you, Erica. It's stupid because love is something you also give freely at any time. And there are so many different types of love. And we only truly love a person, our pet, or whatever it is, if we do not expect love back or anything back in return. Poor love is not expectations, and especially not expectations getting something back. You're not, and I think that's my real problem with Valentine's Day, because I remember when I was working, I had moms who were so afraid that the daughters wouldn't get a lot of Valentine's cards and they would be left behind, that they got friends to write them some and gave it to the daughter. Right? So the girls wouldn't feel left out. That's like seeking likes on a comment you do, or a post you do on social media. Love me, love me, love me, love me. But it's not real. Poor love. It's just giving love, and that's it. Full stop.
I want to share this story. I came across a couple. It was an ambulance call. I won't go into the details of that, but they had. I think they celebrated 60 years together. They'd had a card from the Queen. They'd made the local paper, and this guy, and we're talking, badly kept, unmade roads, a bicycle that only had at best 3 gears, and he was working as an apprentice in one part of the country, around about 50 miles away from where his love was, and he would finish his apprenticeship on the Friday, and he would cycle all that distance on this old sit up and beg, bone shaking bike. He wasn't allowed to stay in the house. We're talking about like in the 30s, I think, here. So he would sleep in the outbuilding so that he could woo her, continue to woo her over the weekend. And then on Sunday evening, he would cycle back 50 miles overnight to arrive to start his apprenticeship again. And he did this for the entire period of his apprenticeship. So we're talking about a couple of years, during which time he saved up enough money that her father gave them the go ahead to get married, and they started their life together. And we now live in an era of people being dumped by text, or just being completely ghosted. You don't know that your relationship's over. It's the distance. Seriously, we've got Zoom, we've got WhatsApp, we've got more kind of ways to be in touch than you can shake a stick at. And it it comes to me that there is a passionate commitment. And again, whether this is romantic, filial, whether it's devotion to a deity, and without that passionate commitment to the purity of our love for a thing, whether it's a person or a being or whatever else, we are shallow. It shows up as shallowness of character and personality.
You just summed it up for me. What love is for me in any relationship, friendship, romantic, child, sibling, whatever it is. You can't buy it for me. Like, you're not gonna buy it. Don't buy me shit like that. I mean, I'm not. That's nice. Give me gifts. Great, if you want to. I don't need them, but they're nice. But that's not gonna immediately make me feel like you love me, right? It's easy. That is the easier way of showing love, is to just let me buy it. Let me buy her roses. Let me buy her some flowers. Let me buy her some candy, or get her a nice meal. That'll shut her up, right? And she must think that I love her at that point. Love can't be bought. Love is how you show up for someone, right? It's what you do for them. I want to see it. That's how I know. And that's how I show my love. So there's no amount of gifts in the world. There's no amount of chocolate in the world. There's no amount of timed seating, dinner arrangement, romantic night out that is going to immediately make me feel like you love me. It's just an added extra generosity of spirit, right? The spirit of generosity to, I want to take you out because I do love you, but you should already know that because I show up for you every day. That is what love is for me. Like, Gabby, what do you want for Valentine's Day? I don't know. If Brett asked me what I want for Valentine's Day, I want you to take out the garbage. That's Valentine's Day for me. Yay. That's showing me, that's all I need. That is all I need. If you want to buy me chocolate, that would be great too. But I don't need that. I prefer you to show up for me the way that speaks to my heart. That's what love is to me. And friendships too. It's just all about showing up and being there the way the other person needs you to be, not because of your own agenda, the way that you want to be. I like chocolate though. I could buy my own fucking chocolate. That's the point. And I've been known to do that. Like, oh, I'm just gonna buy that heart of chocolate. And it lays on the table and we can all eat it. Not a big deal.
You have a point. I think if I look back at relationships, I think relationships, and I had a few who broke down, but I think the reason why they broke down was I didn't feel loved because there was no consideration. There was very generous partners, but there was no consideration, and I think that's what it is. It's about being there for the person and, not being, I often said it sometimes feels like you're an afterthought. And that's the point. I don't need big presents or anything, but if you start to feel like you're an afterthought, or like the sofa in the living room, you happen to be in the house, right? That's when it starts going south. When you feel everything is far more important to them than you are. And that's where we really feel lonely and not loved. And that doesn't matter if it's the partner, or if it's parents or your child. The minute you feel you're always an afterthought, everything else comes first. And then it doesn't matter if you get a present for Valentine's, because they only think of you now because it's in the calendar. I think that's where the real problem for a lot of people comes from with Valentine's. It's, are we working together? Are we showing respect? We're back to respect and all that, right? Understanding each other all year round.
I was
Yeah,
going to
it's
say
like,
there's a communication element there. You know, what are people talk about our love languages these days? And, you know, I'm not decrying that. There are definitely ways that it's possible for you to show your love for somebody by understanding their love language, whatever that might be. And the fact that you make some token effort on one day of the year will never, can never balance out any taken for granted, or, you know, go and play somebody, you were always on my mind. So what? If you didn't actually show by your actions that you were always on my mind, then there's nothing there. You know, Erica talks about taking out the garbage, which may or may not be in jest. But if you've had a long, tiring day and you look at your partner, your dear one, and you think, I'm just going to show them what they mean to me. I'm going to tidy this up. I'm going to take that garbage out. I'm going to get them a cup of tea without them having to ask me for one. Um, one of the most loving gestures that I've ever experienced was being asleep on the sofa behind me, having a nap, and my then partner just coming in and gently covering me over. And I kind of vaguely stirred. I recognized it for what it was and went back into my little nap with such a feeling of love that you you couldn't buy that. It's like Erica said, you cannot buy um finance, discover anything that will give you that. These are experienced, shared moments that will stay with you and probably come back to your mind on your deathbed. And if you haven't got that and you can't provide that for somebody, then I would question the depth of the commitment in your relationship.
it's like, don't make me a priority on one day when for the 364 other days I was an option for you. Like, just no. This is not gonna work. This is not gonna have the result that you think it has, if this is what you think showing loving me is. It just doesn't work like that. And I think possibly women, because we've identified that women are the ones mostly that demand some sort of gesture like that, you need to understand what does being loved really mean to them. What is it for you to feel loved? What is that really about?
You have a good point there, Erica. And I think it's just something we don't think about as women. It's just something we fall into, because from a little girl onwards, we're literally told this is what a man should do for you, right? We are told by Disney. It needs to be that prince, right? The prince will look after you. And it's there. We program for it. But we never ever get told, love is two people coming together and being there for each other. If you think about it, all the stories we're fed as girls is that we're this beautiful thing which is adored by somebody, and then they bring us loads of gifts and look after us. There's never a mention of what is the princess doing to help the prince. You know what I mean?
Do you know, go on, I've got to jump in because it's on a Disney theme. I agree wholeheartedly about the romanticization and cultural stereotypes and all that, with the exception of Beauty and the Beast, which is actually about seeing something that's beneath the exterior and the way in their dynamic they come to mean something to each other. I know there's all sorts of shades of controlling and coercive in that he's kidnapped her and taken her to his castle, etc. However, there is something that grows out of that. And before anybody writes in and says it's Stockholm syndrome, shut up. It's Disney.
I was just going to say that there's just the distinction between, we're talking about love, like pure love, like what it really is, and how it's not only on the intimate level, you know what I mean, with like a male, female, or male, whatever, love, romantic relationship. But there's a difference between love and romance. And I think there is confusion between the two. Romantic gestures don't automatically equate to love. It just doesn't. They're just romantic gestures. And romance is great. I'm not knocking romance. Like every relationship, romantic, I don't know another word about it, but like an intimate relationship like that, the little romance helps. Like it's necessary, right? But these can be little acts of gestures too. They don't have to be these over the top romantic things. Like even I don't know if you guys have it there, but we have like the prom here, right? Which is like the dance that happens every year. And we have things that are now called promposals. I'm not kidding. It's like the way that you ask your date to go to go to the prom. It's like a whole event. It's a promposal. It's we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'm like, what in the actual hell is going on here? Like, so by the time you actually get to the event where you're actually fully proposing to someone for marriage, it loses its whole meaning. Like, come on. What is going on here? Romance and love are not the same thing. They go hand in hand, but love in its purest form can exist without romance, without a romantic gesture, because you don't have romantic gestures every day, but you can show somebody you love them every day. Different. I think there's confusion out there between the two.
And I can't help but feel that once again, you mentioned money grab right at the beginning. Kind of American proms have become emulated in other countries. It started to catch on here, but once again, it is a place of consumption and income creation for various things, dresses and hiring of cars and tuxedos and Lord knows what, in much the same way as Easter and Halloween and everything else. These things were celebrated for their reasons in a period of time. All of them get monetized and used for profit and gain. And most of them come along with a sense of inferiority. I didn't get the prompo. I mean, just that word, it makes me gag. I didn't get my promposal right, And what about being rejected? What about somebody who's put all of that effort into this horrible word and then gets knocked back. I mean, it's hard enough to ask somebody out at that kind of age with all those swirls of hormones and everything anyway. Um, it's a disastrous idea, in my humble opinion.
I don't
It's
know.
not only that, it's also unfair to the other person because if you make such a big deal, it's very, very difficult for the girl to say no.
Yeah, pressure.
Right? The pressure is enormous. You don't really want to go with that guy. But it's like when people make a romantic gesture and they do the marriage proposal in a TV show, live on telly or in a restaurant. It's I would anyone would do that to me, I would say no. And I probably would have said yes if that would have been a private moment. But because it's public, I would actually say no. Because the pressure is enormous to actually, that's peer pressure. To actually then say, I mean, I've seen somebody propose on something like X Factor. There's like 2 million people tuning in. And this poor woman sits there and has now the pressure, right? I find it horrendous.
Do you know, if you're listening, if this was you, and I'm sharing your story, and I still feel your pain all these years on. Um, Guy we've got the London Eye, these big capsules, they hold about 12 people, and they go round and slowly work their way up the top, and then at the top, you're paused in this big Ferris wheel for a couple of minutes. So the guy hires the entire pod. So, he's in effect buying 12 tickets for the London Eye, takes his girlfriend on, and when they get to the top, he goes down on his one knee and proposes. And she says no. So the two of them are now stuck in this capsule that's moving down in kind of 3-minute bursts until they reach the bottom. And can you imagine? I mean, just living with that pain, all of those minutes. I mean, I don't know what it was. Let's say it was 12 minutes of being stuck in this capsule. Do we discuss it? Do we go into why? No. And then what about all the other stuff that was planned for the rest of that day, the romantic meal? And it's like people can spend thousands and thousands of pounds on overblown romantic gestures, and I am in agreement here about the pressure that people put themselves under. For what? For what? To commit to something that actually all of that effort, all of that commitment should really be invested in the long term creation, the longevity of something that will survive the ages.
I'm thinking if I was the woman in that situation probably was the one who wanted to dive headfirst out of that out of that wheel. Because it's pain, it's uncomfortable to cause someone pain like that. Like it's not, only the rejection, it's the one delivering that. Because I don't think many people outwardly actively want to be the deliverer of that. So I'm thinking if that was me, I'd be looking for the exit. Like, how do I get out of here? This sucks. So, yeah.
Yeah, bad news, no exit in this capsules. I was in one. So yeah,
that wasn't you, was it, Gabby? That wasn't you, right?
So I guess and I know you haven't asked me, but if I was going to sum up my feelings about this, it would be to have the communication and the knowledge, the understanding of the other person's needs and how they fit and connect with your own, and to understand that it's not a once a year thing. It's a moment by moment, minute by minute, day by day investment in somebody else, being able to see someone else's heart and, maybe their higher self as being of equal or greater value than yours, and committing yourself to bringing that person with you, assuming they want to be with you for the long haul.
Yeah, I don't think I can put it any better. Love for me is literally being so much in love with somebody or something that you would do anything and do anything without balancing anything up. It's a kind of a poorness, being poor in your actions and what you do without counting what's coming back. It's you really want to be there no matter what. And when that happens, for me, there is poor love.
Yeah. For me, to sum it up, I agree with that. It just means opening your heart up and leading with your heart, showing up for people, remembering how you want them to feel without expectation of anything in return. Yeah. And for all of our listeners out there, I mean, happy Valentine's Day today. Wishing you lots of love. And for those of you who might be feeling a little sad today because of the pressure around this holiday, we're always here. So if you want to comment, we're happy to be there for you and share our love out in the world. But remember, starting with yourself is a good way to start. So practice some self-love today and buy yourself some chocolate. If that's the way you show yourself that you're worthy of the love, just do whatever that takes for you.
Wishing you all love.